Hello everyone. I am sitting outside because I really just wanted to enjoy the beautiful weather out here. I am super excited to just sit and chat with you all. I've made a video about this before, but I really just wanted to share with you guys my story as to how I became a graphic designer and a few key moments from my story that I think have helped me get to where I am now, being in my third year as a full-time designer. And I wanted to share this because I think it's the best way for, especially if you're like new to my channel or haven't really heard my story before, I think it'll really help to understand like the opportunities that have allowed me to get to where I am now and those important milestones that have helped me like really grow. Okay, so I am in my third year of being a full-time graphic designer, and I have seen probably the most growth in my business, I would say last year and this year, so my second and third year, and it's been really amazing to see that I don't have to worry about inquiries and clients and stuff like that. But I think the reason for that is because I have the past experiences that I'm going to share with you guys today, and those opportunities and also not even opportunities, the sacrifices I made to allow that consistency to come through even now. So let's rewind it a bit to back in 2016. That is when I graduated college. I actually went to college and I was kind of confused on what it was that I wanted to do. I didn't really know that graphic design was a career yet. I actually remember reading a magazine article back when I was like in high school or middle school when we had those 17 magazines. I'll put a little picture here if you remember what I'm talking about. But I remember reading an article in that, and I was like, it was all about graphic design and like working at an agency. I think it was someone who worked in like New York, and I thought it was really cool. And that kind of stuck with me, but I never really like visualized myself doing that. So it was always in the back of my head. I just remember being really like drawn to that. And then I also remember when I would watch like Laguna Beach in the hills, I remember Lauren Conrad had like a job at, I think she was like a fashion designer or something like that. But I admired that a lot, and I thought it was really cool, and I wanted her job. So I remember like little bits and pieces of it kind of popping up in my life, but not really knowing that it could be a career that I could end up doing. So I know that like I knew that kind of like industry and path existed, but I just, like I said, never visualized myself in that. But I went to college, entered into college wanting to potentially go down a nutrition degree path because I thought that I really loved that kind of thing and I loved wellness and all that, but I realized that there was a lot of science classes, a lot of math, and that's just not my thing. I've always known that I'm not the greatest at that. I was willing to try it, but I was like, it didn't feel right. I ended up getting talked into doing a journalism degree because I went to, I think, a couple like meetings about majors, and that one stood out to me because I would learn a lot about marketing, some visual design things, and also just overall, they kind of framed it as like a visual marketing degree kind of. I didn't really I learned a lot about like writing and press releases and all that, but I didn't learn anything really about Adobe Illustrator or programs like that. So it was mainly all about marketing. But I was really glad that I went down that path because it was an amazing school. I feel like there was so much support around learning on your own and like saying yes to opportunities outside of school too. And I also had to get an internship, it was an internship. I think it was like my junior year of college. And that was when I really got to see like a graphic design career because my internship was shadowing a graphic designer at a local art museum here. And that was so cool because I got to see how she uses Adobe InDesign. She used that for like everything because she did a lot of like print materials, and it was really cool because I got to shadow her, and that's where I learned a lot. I think I shadowed her for like 4 months. I had to do a certain amount of hours, and unfortunately it was unpaid, but since I was going to college, I didn't really expect that at the time. So I'm very grateful for that though, because I was really able to like see an actual designer doing design, and I also was able to design a few things myself and kind of exercise that like creative part of my brain. So that was a really awesome opportunity. So I did that, and then senior year of college, I, of course, was starting to think about what it is that I'm going to do in the real world, and that was when we had a couple guys come in to do a presentation all about their marketing agency and the fact that they're looking for a project manager, and honestly, props to them for coming into a college class, because that was very smart. They knew that we're all looking for a job or something to do after college, but to my surprise, I was the only one who ended up applying to that position. I feel like I'm the type of person that I just will say yes to a lot of opportunities, and I don't really like overthink it, because I know that there's always something positive that can be pulled from an opportunity. And I think what they were explaining in terms of the job really resonated with me, and it sounded like something that I would enjoy. So I ended up interviewing with them. I remember being really nervous because I didn't have a portfolio yet, or didn't even know like what to bring for a resume. I had like jobs where I worked at like pizza places and like nothing related to the industry, but they also were honest about wanting someone young and new. And yeah, they went to a college class, so I think they kind of expected that. But I ended up getting the job. So I started to work there while I was in college. I only worked a couple days a week, and it turned into a full-time position after college. And it was a really awesome opportunity, because within this agency, although I was a project manager, which was very difficult, because imagine jumping into a agency and like not knowing anything about the agency world and being told to organize the projects and the timelines and all that. It was overwhelming, and honestly I wasn't very good at it. So there was a few opportunities within the agency to actually design for the clients they had, and I immediately jumped into that, because although I said I didn't learn Adobe Illustrator, I knew Adobe Photoshop really well, and that is because I did a minor in photography, and I'm also very grateful for having that experience, because I was able to really learn everything about Photoshop, and that's the only program I used to use to design. I used to do websites on there, logos on there, everything on there. And now looking back, I'm like, how did I do that for so long? I love Photoshop, but I don't really love it for logo designs now, looking back. But that's where I had experience. So I ended up being able to take on some opportunities within the agency to design for the clients, which involved some logo designs, also brochure designs, a lot of like print collateral designs. All of their clients were like local to the city, and they were like realtors, lawyers, kind of random. They didn't really have like a niche. They just worked for like whoever needed it. There was also like a plastic surgeon company. So I was able to kind of dabble in design, and I instantly knew that that was where my strengths were. So they gave me more opportunities within that kind of realm. So I ended up working at that agency for around 2.5 years. They ended up going under because I feel like, I don't even know what caused the shift, but looking back, I think it was because they were friends, communication wasn't really great, and also the consistency of their clients wasn't great either. So I really saw firsthand like how things can kind of go south if you don't communicate with the clients openly, if you're not transparent, if you don't create those really good lasting relationships. And at the end of the day, and this is a key point that I want to mention, at the end of the day, clients really just care about transparency and being genuine. I feel like I get that compliment a lot from like great client experiences, is being genuine and transparent and like not salesy is the best way to have a great client experience and like get referrals. So after that, I ended up getting let go. It was kind of like the company just went under, and I was kind of forced to jump into something else. So I started to take on some freelance clients using Upwork, and at the time Upwork wasn't as competitive, so I was able to land quite a few clients through there. However, I still didn't have a whole lot of experience. I had no idea how to price my services. So I would just go off the average and like take a little bit off of that because I knew I was newer. But yeah, I started to get clients through that, but it wasn't enough financially to like support me. So I also wasn't even thinking about going full time yet. I was like still really young, and I don't know, there's just like life stuff going on. That wasn't even on my mind yet. So huge props to all of you who are young and doing that. Like, that's truly amazing, because when I think back to that time, I don't know, there's just so much like growth you're going through personally, and to think about personal growth with business growth, major props to all of you who are like young 20s. I respect you a lot. But I decided to go work at a corporate company and do some design work there because like I said, I just wasn't financially secure yet. I didn't have a lot of savings yet. And I just wanted something like with structure. So I worked at this corporate company. It was a 9-to-5 job, hourly pay, and it was not for me. I only worked there for around 7 months, if that. It might have even been 6 months. But I just didn't really love it because there was a lot of constraints creatively. I felt like we had to use the same fonts, the same colors, because it was a lending company, a loan company for homes and stuff, and they had their specific branding already. So the consistency had to be there for every design project, and that got boring. And I love change. I just love changing things up. So that for me just wasn't working. And then I actually was at work one day. I had my laptop on my lap underneath my little desk cubicle thing, working on Upwork clients and the 9-to-5 job, which isn't the best thing to do. I know that. I knew that at the time too. But I was like, I'm trying to build this business on my own because I saw how that can work at an agency, and I kind of started to think about that for my future. But like I said, I just wasn't ready at the time yet. That I was doing that, and while all that was going on, I got a call from my dad's good friend who is an entrepreneur. He had started multiple successful companies, and he ended up calling me to see if I'd want to work for him and work from home, manage his websites, manage his like marketing. And I was like looking for any way out of that corporate job. Although I loved my coworkers, it just wasn't for me. I wasn't fulfilled. So I said yes, like right on the spot. I said yes, and I left that corporate company after like 7 months. Then I started to work from home, and that's when I really saw the kind of like, there's so many pros and cons to working from home by yourself. You have so much flexibility, and I don't think it's for everybody because I had to be very proactive. I had to be very good about scheduling my day and not getting distracted. And that's not for everybody. I know that it was hard for me. It was hard to transition into that and feel like I had no one like micromanaging me, which I love, but it was a transition. I didn't have coworkers anymore because everyone was working from home. But I actually kind of loved it because I was able to like go to coffee shops, and I was making consistent income, and I was able to work on my freelance clients on the side because I had more time in my day, because that time that's usually spent getting to work, coming back from work, all that, I had a little bit more time in my schedule to build my business and start to create YouTube content. So that was back in 2017, I believe, or 28. It was like end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And I worked at this place, or worked for him for about 3 years. I ended up really growing my business on the side. And I used to hesitate with saying that because I know that like when you're working for someone, that should be like, I feel like all bosses and jobs think that is your 100% everything. Like there's nothing else going on the side, but like I just had that entrepreneurial spirit where I was like, I want my own thing. And I started to really visualize working for myself one day because I was so tired of, this is going to sound bad, but I was tired of being told what to do. And I was also tired of working for men. And I was tired of working on projects that I didn't really love. I was just I was starting to hate it, to be honest. And the only thing that was keeping me fulfilled was my clients that I had on my own on the side. So I was doing that. I really started to see lots of consistency coming through with my clients because I was posting consistently on social media. I was creating the YouTube content. I had a portfolio now. I felt more confident with my work, so I was able to like really kind of sell it more and like talk about it more confidently. But yeah, I worked there for 3 years, and the third year was when I really started to feel I felt detached from that company. I was like, this is just not for me anymore. I also, biggest thing that happened for me was I was actually making at some months more money with my clients than I was with that job. So it came to that decision of like, okay, well, I'm making more with clients than here, and I love that more. I feel more excited about that, so why am I not just taking the leap? But it's scary, as I'm sure a lot of you know. It's scary to do that. It's scary to make that decision. You have to trust yourself. You have to have a proactive nature. You have to be driven. There's a lot of things that come with it. So I was nervous about it, but I trusted myself. So ultimately I was able to make that decision. But I like to share these like honest, transparent feelings I had, because I think that all the steps I've taken, whether that was my photography minor, whether that was working at an agency and a corporate company to see how both sides of that works, whether it was working for, I don't know, like how different people manage clients, how people communicate with clients, I was able to really see that and shadow that from multiple designers and people, which was so helpful. A lot of things that I haven't shared that happened like in between these jobs was connections. Like with the agency, they had a connection of a website designer, and I was able to shadow him and learn from him. And I just feel like every single step that I went through, and also being like passionate about it on my own, to learn on my own and continue to learn, helped me get to where I am and like grow my business faster when I took it full time. So every single step, there was something that I got from it. Whether I liked it or not, there was always a pro and a positive from each situation. So yeah, there was a lot of things that happened at this company that I worked from home for. I felt so fortunate and grateful to have that opportunity to work and have flexibility in my schedule, have that consistent income. But I was not making a lot of money, and like with everything changing in our society and, you know, pandemic and all that, I just felt like I wasn't getting compensated a lot. But I also never really argued for that because I knew I was building my own thing on the side, and I felt kind of weirdly guilty about that. So I just accepted the low salary that I was getting. And also it was nice to have benefits and stuff like that, but that's besides the point. I just got to the point where I wasn't happy anymore, and there was a lot of things that led me to the decision. But I wanted to mention real quick that I have a really in-depth presentation that is free for all of you. I really just want to share everything I can to help you in your journey and your situation. But I made a free presentation, like 20 minutes, where I dive deep into how I went from freelancing to running a six-figure graphic design business in 3 years, almost 2 years. Like it was a little less than 3 years when I really saw that income and numbers coming through. So definitely go check out that freebie. It's down below this video if you want to hear more about the things that led me to the decision to take the leap. But yeah, and also all the things that helped me increase my income and set me up for success when it came to the time to go full time. So yeah, this was when I took the leap. It was in 2022. Yeah, 2022, I took the leap, and it was scary, but I was so excited. I was so relieved that I finally trusted myself enough to do it. I was really proud of myself for setting myself up for that decision and that exciting opportunity. And it was the craziest transition to work for myself and not worry about a 9 to 5 hour like daily thing. Like I was able to work 10 to 12 and then take like a 2-hour break if I wanted. Crazy. It was a crazy transition, and it was really difficult to get used to. But I'm also kind of grateful that I had those opportunities to get me in a consistent, like really good schedule, because that alone helped me succeed when it came to working for myself. I feel like if I didn't have those jobs and opportunities and I just jumped right into working for myself, I wouldn't have a lot of those skills of like the client experience and the process, communication, all of that. So yeah, it was when I look back, I'm really proud of that journey that I went through. But I also want to be honest, like there was, when I was working the 9-to-5 job at corporate company and for the one working from home, it was long nights. I sacrificed my weekends. I was busy. I remember like visiting, I have this weird memory that has popped in my head, but I remember when I was visiting my parents once and I had both of the jobs, my 9-to-5 job and my freelance clients and my YouTube. And I remember like sitting out by the fire pit visiting my parents, and I had my laptop open. There was WordPress issues for my client, and I knew that I had to wake up in the morning to get to my 9-to-5 on the computer. I remember just like I had to sacrifice moments like that and time like that to make my clients happy and like build my business. I don't know why that memory popped in my head, but yeah, it was a long journey, about 8 years from when I started learning design to now, and I don't want it to ever seem like it just happens overnight. It took a lot of learning and practicing on my own and saying yes to opportunities in the beginning, building my portfolio, figuring out my style, all the things. It took a long time, and I'm still learning. Like I'm still learning every single day, whether that's client process issue or like communication things with clients, project management, the business side of things now with like finances and the business structure and all that, on top of still learning and improving my designs every single day. So I wanted to share my story because I've shared it before, but I just want to give you that reminder that if you're just beginning, like it's a really exciting and super fun journey ahead, but don't be afraid to continue to learn and don't be afraid to say yes to things. Don't be afraid, most of all, do not be afraid to post your work. That is where I was able to make connections and get clients and really step out of my comfort zone. And that would be my biggest piece of advice, is to eliminate all the judgments or the fear of the judgments from people. And you know what helps me with that is realizing that this is our story. You are writing your own book about your life, and you have no editors to that. Like for some reason that helps me a lot to realize that this is my story and my book, and if someone wants to come in and edit that, they don't need to be here for it. So just remind yourself that putting yourself out there will lead to amazing opportunities. And yeah, I hope that hearing my story kind of helps you. It's getting really windy out here, so I wanted to kind of wrap this up, but I also want to remind you guys again to go check out that freebie where I talk all about how I increased my income, because I know that the financial side of things is what leads us to our decisions, and I really wanted to be open with you guys in that freebie. So go check that out if you want to hear how I started to make 6 figures in my design business, what led me to make the decision to go full-time, like in detail. I go through it all, so definitely go check that out. But I really appreciate you all for being here. I love you all, and I just can't wait to see your growth and your journey and your story. But thank you all so much for being here. If you enjoyed hearing my story, or if you enjoy anything around the graphic design world, I would love if you stick around by subscribing to my channel and liking this video. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you in my next one.